Exquisite. Hello, welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Chat About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed already. I really couldn't do this without you. I'm trying to get to 1,200 subscribers. Can I do it? Well, who knows? Today we are talking about survival, yes, and RTD can learn a lot about trying to survive, ready for a new season, potentially, I don't know, of season 3 of Doctor Who. It's not still been confirmed yet, but you know what? Disney sound pretty confident, and we'll have more on that tomorrow. Just make sure that you are subscribed for that one. So, of course, yes, today we are talking about Survival, the landmark final episode of the classic era before the 1996 movie starring Paul McGann and Sylvester McCoy. This episode, Survival, was voted by you, the subscribers. To vote on the current poll, please head on over to the community tab on my channel and have your say in what I should review on a Sunday whilst we are waiting for the new news of the already recorded series of Doctor Who that they can no longer really fix because actors have been spread elsewhere. Anyway, so Survival was written by Ronan Munro, directed by Alan Waring, aired between 22nd of November to 6th of December 1989, and it averaged 4.9 million viewers in consolidation. This marks the last TV appearance of companion Ace, played by Sophie Aldred, and this was also Anthony Ainley's last episode as the Master. The role of the Master was taken over by Eric Roberts in the 1996 movie. This episode also features Lisa Bowerman making her first debut. Well, you can only have one debut, really, but her debut in Doctor Who as Kara, and she is known really for playing Bernice Summerfield in the Big Finish audio plays. The Doctor and Ace land in Perryville, Ace's hometown, so that Ace can visit her old friends. However, the place is practically rid of people bar a few. There is, however, an increased presence of cats, weird cats that seem to hold some dark secret power that transports people to another world where they have to fight for their survival. Both the Doctor and Ace end up on this planet where the cheetah people live. The Doctor runs into the Master. The biggest question is just what is the Master doing there, and how will they return to Berryville? So I will start by saying that I think this episode of Doctor Who is reasonably good. The last series sort of starts to flounder a little bit, I guess you could say, but you know, it is good. The qualities of Doctor Who is very much there. This episode is definitely much more of a fantasy type of episode that we also get with Sylvester McCoy. The Doctor's characterization with Sylvester has definitely changed from the physical comedic Doctor that we actually see in The Time and the Rani to a much darker version. And I actually think this one really suits Sylvester a lot more. It is truly needed. The Doctor can actually be, in general, very funny at times, and it is still kept there, but not at the detriment to how the Doctor changed with McCoy's portrayal towards the end. There's a certain relish his Doctor actually has, and it keeps going into the audio dramas or the audio plays, whichever you want to call them. If ever you actually choose to listen to them, you can tell he really has a lot of fun. Now, there's one thing for sure, and that this Doctor in this episode really loves a mystery. Well, actually, the Doctor generally loves a mystery. It's not against his nature, it's not against his character at all in the entirety of Who, classic and new Who, not the current series so much, but you know, the one that we got before the current series. Now, the fantasy mystery is actually compelling enough. However, I think this episode really should have been a four-parter. And well, that's not actually because I felt it was rushed, but because I felt like there were some things that were left unexplained that actually needed to be explained. For example, like how does Ace recover from her mind possession when Midge is unable to do so? Now, whilst my mind can fill in the blanks, for example, Midge was far too gone and Ace wasn't, or it was the planet of the cheetah people being destroyed that made it so that, you know, she didn't advance into full cheetah mode like Midge did. I feel like we could have had a chance really of seeing the Doctor actually saving Ace properly by standing down and sort of like finding a way to fix the issue. Well, actually, no, not standing down, like standing up. I got that the complete wrong way around. But you know what I mean, right? Oh, I forgot to say there's going to be loads of things that I actually miss in this review. So please do actually comment below. Now, quick question. Who was expecting the Master to reappear for this? I wasn't, although it wasn't actually surprising because every Doctor from Tom Baker onwards had fought this incarnation of the Master, and every Doctor from John Pertwee onwards, although that actually only includes like one extra Doctor, um, also faced a version of the Master. Now, Anthony Ainley was a fine actor. I'm not sure though if this was his best performance of the Master that he's ever done. One thing I noticed is that he has various levels, I guess you could say, of playing the Master. Some are more OTT or pompous, particularly at the beginning of his run as the Master, and some are a bit calmer. And in this case, it's much more. Well, it feels more underplayed than what he perhaps has done normally in the past. Now, maybe he changed his levels of performance depending on which incarnation of the Doctor he was with. By the way, this is just my pure speculation. So, for example, he toned down his energy and darkness in this episode to contrast with the portrayal of Sylvester's Doctor. This happens in theatre too, this kind of thing. Understudies come on to cover for a character, and whilst the character is fundamentally the same, there are something, well, there may be similarities, let's just put it like that, between the main actor for that particular character and the understudies number one, two, and three for that same role. Now, that Sylvester isn't an understudy. Of course, I just realized what I said there, but he's not an understudy. But he was playing a different version of a Doctor. And having been an understudy myself and also a main character who has worked with understudies, that's the closest thing I really could equate it to. However, I have also heard tell whilst researching for this story that this type of portrayal may have been his actual intention for the Master to play it calmer and darker. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, so I have no way of asking him and finding out this information for myself. But maybe because this was truly the last time that he was going to be playing the Master, the real stark contrast was perhaps too quick, and maybe he would have needed more time to pull it back. It was such a sudden change. Although, having said that, it does actually suit what he's doing in many respects because he's trying to keep the cheetah inside of him underneath his control. So I do understand it at the same time. Now, I also thought that the Master needed more screen time, especially with the Doctor. In fact, actually, I would have liked to have seen those two teaming up before the double cross happened. We know that this works in Doctor Who, and we know that the Master's goal was to obviously get off the planet of the cheetah people so he could return back to normal and get back to his TARDIS, which is truly the reason why the Doctor ended up there in the first place, if you think about it, and or just take the Doctor down whilst he's actually trying to get back to his TARDIS. I mean, it's an absolute genius plan in the Master's mind. Now, listen, the plot isn't as convoluted as I'm actually making it out to be because other than some plot holes, it's actually pretty concise. The survival is the instinct to remain still and don't rush or run. But how long can they hold off the urge to turn into a cheetah person? Now, the cheetah people, surprisingly, off the top of my head, and I don't think I'm mistaken actually, are one of the few aliens that have not since returned to Doctor Who. I don't think it would be a bad idea if they did because they're not overused. They could perhaps have an opportunity to update the costumes to make them look more distinctive because these cheetah costumes, actually, they are great costumes, but I didn't actually immediately realize that they were cheetahs. Now, I may have been incredibly naive when I was a child to not actually notice this, but weirdly enough, even now at my age, I still think it. So maybe it's not that weird. And if we were to look at where the money has gone in this episode, then they clearly spent it on the cheetah, the stunts, the effects, and the scenery. The scenery is one of the highlights of this. You know, what a way to finish on some with some stunning lighting and views of this new planet. You're leaving the audience with the last episode just with like pretty visuals, and that's nice. Now, one of my favorite things is the solution of how to get off the planet. I actually didn't figure that out at all. It's really the tiniest plot point that you actually see at the beginning, but it's in reverse. Get one of them to take you back. It was a bit of a hand smacking to the forehead type of moment, I guess you could say. It should have been obvious, but it really truly wasn't obvious at all. And waiting for Midge or Ace, and both of them maybe, to turn into or start turning into cheetah people was the answer. Now, who else feels that Ace is a bit more grown up here? I do. I think that that's in part because actually Sophie Aldred has gotten older as she was playing her, so her portrayal of it is a lot more mature, even though technically she's still quite young. But I guess we have to presume also that she has been traveling with the Doctor for quite some time at this point. There wasn't much talk about with things that go boom with Ace either in this episode. Now, the way that she rallies them all together to survive is what being with the Doctor has taught her. That's part of her evolution as a character. Her survival instinct is very strong, but she is still susceptible to manipulation whilst traveling with the Doctor, which is what we see when she starts getting possessed. Now, I also have a question. Was that big stunt towards the end with the Doctor and Midge really needed? Now, I feel like the episodes can't go without a kaboom with McCoy in some ways. They felt that they needed to do it. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much. Although, technically, if Midge had turned into a cheetah and had returned to the planet of the cheetah people, then he would have been offed anyway because the planet was actually getting destroyed after the cheetahs fight each other. Well, they were continuously fighting each other. So they could have actually just let him return to the planet. I actually think that would have been perhaps nicer. Maybe then Ace actually doesn't know what happens to him. I also think that now, whilst I know there was a plan in perhaps a future series for Ace to go with the Time Lords, that if they had an inkling or they knew it was finishing, Ace should have left the TARDIS then. Why? Well, it's because of Midge. Midge was a friend and he passes away, and she has zero reaction at all. Now, she does actually react to the Doctor possibly being gone, but not Midge. And the Doctor was actually quite reckless in that way. And I criticize the 15th Doctor for doing things like that and being totally reckless. No fault to the companion, although he was actually pulling her off that motorbike to actually take her place. So he was sacrificing herself, even though that was still very reckless. There would have been a way to actually overcome that. But obviously, they needed a kaboom. But also, at the same time, I do actually appreciate that Ace may have been traveling with the Doctor for a long time by that point and maybe doesn't actually consider Midge that much of a close friend anymore. But at the same time, they do actually make a point of saying that he's her friend. So I was just a bit surprised that she had zero reaction to that at all, really. Well, of course, the Doctor survives. And these were the last lines he said as it closed on the classic series forever. There are worlds out there where the sky is burning, where the seas are asleep, and the rivers dream. People made of smoke and cities made of song. Somewhere there's danger, somewhere there's injustice, and somewhere else the tea's getting cold. Come on, Ace, we've got work to do. So those were the last lines officially in the classic series before the movie that the Seventh Doctor actually said. Now, these lines also suggest that Jonathan Nathan Turner, the producer of what is known as J&T, may have actually known or had a feeling that the series was going to be wrapped up and drawing to a close. So he had those lines put in as a more finite option and a bit more of a closure, I guess you could say, for the audience, just in case it never came back, which it didn't until 1996. Now, this story gets a 7 out of 10 for me. It's a good story, and yes, it has flaws and needed more work and another episode. To say series could really learn from this one, though. That's it for today. Next Sunday at 4 p.m., there is an exclusive interview with a Doctor Who author. So be sure that you are subscribed for next Sunday to actually check that one out. I will be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. I release a video at 4 p.m. Sunday through to Thursday. We cover different subjects within the entertainment industry. So please do be sure to actually hit that subscribe button and join me for that. Let me know what you think. Chat about it. Don't chat about it. Like the video if you would really like to give us a push out there through my suppression from saying naughty things on YouTube, apparently. Share this with your friends. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.